So a quick responder video to the recent documentary, Canada is Dying. I guess Aaron Gunn put that out. So I watched the whole video. To be fair, I watched the whole thing, and some parts I agree with, and other parts I'm very troubled with. And I think the video should come with a disclaimer that says, "Hi, I'm Aaron Gunn, and this documentary is intended to turf Justin Trudeau out of power, and every bit of information, every bit of interview, everything I do in this video is to unseat the Liberal government, which is fine. You have a right to make that kind of video. I guess you're kind of like the right-wing Micael Moore. The videos, to me, seems very over-sensationalized, very simplistic, and let's get into it. So first of all, he was in Nanaimo lambasting the crime and the degeneracy in Nanaimo, and sure, I believe that there has, been incidents of crime in Nanaimo. He's not lying about that. If you go and talk to victims of crime, and you talk to police officers and people on blocks, security watches, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. But I was recently in Nanaimo for a few days, and very quiet, peaceful place. I spoke to at least a dozen residents, asking them how they like living there, and long-term residents say they love it. It's the best place to be. It's very pristine and very nice. So, I mean, if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. Of course, Nanaimo's not perfect, but I never felt unsafe there. I never seen any terrible issues. Same with Vancouver. There's very bad neighborhoods. There's a lot of problems, but Vancouver's still a very beautiful city. Many people love living here. And I also should remind everyone that if you're looking at a lot of street crime and things that are happening, and if you go right to the scene and you talk to the families, you talk to the victims, you're going to over-sensationalize it, kind of victim porn, if you will. I should also remind people that 7 of the 10 Canadian provinces have been conservative for a long time, and things don't just happen in 2 or 3 years. Things happen over many years, and we've had Liberal and Conservative governments. 7 out of 10 provinces are still being run by Conservatives, so they're not silent partners in all of this. He talks a lot about, let's start with the opioids. It's a terrible thing. A lot of people are dying of opioid overdoses, and he's really hating on this safe supply. Now, the only reason we have safe supply is because medical professionals have come to the logical conclusion that there's a toxic street drug supply, and a lot of people are dying, so they don't want people to die. This is not unique to Canada. There's an opioid crisis all across the United States. Aaron talks a lot about policing is going to solve the problem. We've been there, we've done that. Policing doesn't solve these issues. If it did, the United States would be the safest country in the world. They have a brutal gulag prison system that throws a lot of people in jail, and it doesn't seem to be working. Tougher and dumber doesn't work. I will agree that violent offenders, people who hurt, assault, there's no reason for them to be on the streets. I do agree with that part. I think that's a good thing to get the most violent offenders off the streets. There's been some incidents recently where violent crime has happened. I do want to say that you seem to have this weird perspective that First Nations people are being treated differently in the criminal justice system. Yeah, they are. They're being systemically treated. They're being treated in a systemic, racist way. Anyone with a quick search can find out that Indigenous people in Canada make up 4% of the population and constitute almost 38% of the prison population. So please don't sell us on there's some racial inequality in the prison system, because there is, but it's not against white people. Indigenous people are really targeted by policing services and over-policed, obviously. Treatment for addicts, let's touch on that. I do agree that we give this safe supply opioids, which is good, but there's no follow through. Like people like to quote Portugal, and you're quite right in saying that Portugal has, they will give safe supply, but they have very strict requirements. One of the requirements is that you seek treatment and have treatment available, and I think that's important. The way it's being done is very incompetent. You don't just hand drugs out the door. I agree with you on that. I think that this model in Alberta, I haven't studied it, but if you can get instant treatment and if you can get a safe supply, but you need to agree to clean up and go into recovery, I think that's the way to go. Yeah, I think when you over sensationalize these things, it just, you're kind of pandering to your side. I think these issues are more nuanced and more complicated. We should be tougher on violent offenders. We shouldn't let them out on the streets clearly. But when you focus in and you interview the victim, you know, the families of the victims, and you go to those places, it's kind of like a little bit of victim porn, if you will. What do you think they're going to say? You're seeking out like a confirmation bias, more policing, and more and cracking down on people is done all over the states. It hasn't made it a safer place. Community policing is what we need. We need more treatment. I'll agree with you on that. But otherwise, yeah, good for you. Good luck in throwing out the Liberal government. I'm not a big fan of the Liberal government. I've been very critical of them too. But I just wanted to give you my perspective.